In the summer of 1940, Adolf Hitler was unstoppable. France had fallen. Britain stood alone. And across Europe, the swastika flew where once there were free nations. But far to the east, another dictator watched, Joseph Stalin, a man who had helped Hitler rise and who believed he could control the devil himself. This is the story of two tyrants, allies by necessity, enemies by design. Their pact would shake the world. Their rivalry would destroy it.
August 1939. In his mountain retreat at Obersalzberg, Adolf Hitler faced a terrible dilemma. He wanted war with Poland, a lightning conquest to avenge Germany's humiliation after World War I. But Britain and France had pledged to defend Poland. If the Soviet Union joined them, Hitler would be trapped in a war on two fronts, the very disaster that had doomed Germany in 1918. So, Hitler made an unimaginable decision. He reached out to his sworn ideological enemy, Joseph Stalin.
In Moscow, Stalin hesitated. He knew exactly who Hitler was. He had read Mein Kampf, underlining passages where Hitler called Bolshevik leaders the scum of humanity. But Stalin saw opportunity. A pact with Hitler could buy him time and land. And so, on the night of August 23, 1939, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed. In public, it was a non-aggression agreement. In secret, it was a deal to carve up Eastern Europe.
Stalin toasted Hitler's health. Hitler celebrated. Each believed he had fooled the other. Neither realized they had just doomed tens of millions. A week later, on September 1, 1939, Hitler's armies invaded Poland. 17 days later, Stalin's Red Army entered from the east. The two totalitarian powers crushed a nation between them. In the West, Nazi SS death squads executed tens of thousands of Jews and Polish elites. In the East, Stalin's NKVD murdered over 20,000 Polish officers in the Katyn forest. Hitler's men learned something chilling, that they could kill without restraint, and that their Führer approved.
For the next 2 years, Hitler and Stalin were partners in crime. They traded raw materials, intelligence, and political cover, but neither trusted the other. Stalin knew Hitler's ultimate dream was to conquer the East, and Hitler despised Stalin's communist ideology. Still, for now, the pact suited them both. Hitler could turn west, toward France and Britain, while Stalin seized the Baltic states and invaded Finland. But the Winter War turned into a disaster. The Red Army froze and bled in the snow. 125,000 Soviet soldiers were killed. The world saw Stalin's army as weak, and so did Hitler. He sneered, "If Stalin shoots his own generals, we won't need to do it." The Uneasy Alliance was beginning to fracture. May 1940, Hitler unleashed blitzkrieg in the West. In just 6 weeks, France fell. Britain stood alone. Stalin was horrified. He had expected a long, grinding war among the capitalist powers. Instead, Hitler had crushed them in months. Nikita Khrushchev later recalled, "Stalin was furious, pacing, cursing, unable to believe that France had fallen so quickly." The balance of power had shifted. Hitler now ruled the continent, and Stalin feared he might be next. To protect himself, Stalin occupied the Baltic states and parts of Romania. But one move went too far. He seized Bukovina, a province not covered by the Nazi-Soviet Pact. To Hitler, this was a betrayal. His calculating mind began to turn. By July 1940, Hitler had reached the peak of his power. In Berlin, cheering crowds hailed him as the conqueror of Europe. But behind the triumph, his mind was darkening. Why would Britain not surrender? He had beaten them everywhere, except in the air. In his mind, there could only be one explanation. Britain must be holding out for help from Stalin or from America. Hitler's paranoia grew. He told his generals, with Russia smashed, Britain's last hope will be gone. The thought consumed him.
In the Kremlin, Stalin believed he had outsmarted Hitler. He thought the Pact would protect him and allow him to expand communism westward. He told his aides, "A war is on between two groups of capitalist countries. Hitler is shaking the capitalist system. Let them kill each other." But Stalin's arrogance blinded him. His own intelligence services warned him again and again that Germany was preparing to attack. He refused to believe it. He even dismissed Churchill's warning that Hitler was planning to strike east. Stalin convinced himself that Hitler would not risk another front. He was wrong.
November 1940, Hitler invited Stalin's foreign minister, Vyacheslav Molotov, to Berlin. Hitler's goal was to persuade Stalin to join him against Britain, to divide the spoils of the British Empire. But Molotov had his own agenda. He pressed Hitler about German troops in Finland and Romania, territories close to Soviet borders. The talks turned cold. Molotov's blunt questioning infuriated Hitler. When the Russian delegation left, Hitler exploded. "It will not even remain a marriage of convenience." The last thread between them had snapped.
By December 1940, Hitler had made his decision. He would invade the Soviet Union. He believed it would take just 5 months. His generals warned him about the risks, the vastness of Russia, the brutal winters. But Hitler wouldn't listen. He believed his destiny was to destroy Bolshevism and conquer Lebensraum, living space, for Germany. In June 1941, Operation Barbarossa began. 3 million German soldiers stormed across the border. Stalin was caught completely off guard. For weeks, he refused to speak publicly. He had trusted Hitler's word, and now his empire was burning.
At first, Hitler's invasion seemed unstoppable. The Red Army collapsed. Cities fell. Millions of Soviet soldiers were captured. But as the German army pushed deeper into Russia, its strength began to falter. The distances were endless. The supply lines stretched thin. And then came the winter. Temperatures plunged to -40. Engines froze. Soldiers starved. By December, the Blitzkrieg had failed. The Soviet counterattack outside Moscow drove the Germans back. Hitler's delusions had led him into the same trap he had once feared most, a war on two fronts. As the war dragged on, fear consumed both men. Hitler raged at his generals, refusing to retreat. Stalin executed his own officers for imagined disloyalty. Their alliance of convenience had become a war of annihilation. Millions perished in cities like Stalingrad, Kursk, and Leningrad. By 1945, Hitler's empire lay in ruins. The very fear of Stalin that had driven him east had destroyed him. It began with fear and ended with destruction. Two dictators, each convinced he could outwit the other, each driven by hatred, paranoia, and pride. Their duel reshaped the world and left behind a legacy of suffering that endures to this day.